Hello, ladies. Welcome to Ignite Your Destiny. I'm Jamie Marie, and I am so glad that you are here. I am super excited to welcome Rachel Swanson with us today. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, it's
So
nice to be here.
glad Can you share with the ladies a little bit about yourself?
Yes, great. So, hi, ladies. My name is Rachel Swanson, and I am, well, first and foremost, I'm a wife and a mom to three little kids. So, my twin boys are identical twin boys, and they're 5, and my daughter is 4. And so I love on them. I cherish them. I do all the mom roles as well as I do some things on the side. And so, my other titles and roles that I do is I'm a writer and an author. I go around speaking sometimes to women's events, which is really fun. And I do some online coaching as well. So, yeah. But I
Busy.
used to be a dental hygienist. So that's why I got white teeth as well. So.
You got to have that if
I gotta have that. I mean, everyone's always like, "How do you have such white teeth?" I'm like, "I was a dental hygienist. Like, it goes with the trade."
I love it. You just
Yeah,
know the tricks to that. Well, you're
yeah,
definitely a busy mom. So
yes, I
share your
am.
story with how you got started in your purpose and your vision.
Yeah, gosh. Well, it was a few years ago now, I guess, and it was really, I started to do a little more introspective work into understanding myself better, and it really was in a place of just deep need. I had gotten to a place where I was really just struggling. I had everything looked good on the outside, but I just felt like there was something off on the inside, and just something wasn't right. I just felt like there were certain things that I was not doing or acting on or participating in with God that He ultimately wanted me to do with my life. And so, as I began to unravel and kind of uncover and actually refine the areas of my character, God began to restore my heart back to kind of my true self and help me open up my eyes to my giftings and my deeper purpose, kind of my unique purpose with God, and how I can become more activated to helping women in other roles. And so He actually kind of just birthed some of these desires in my heart to just start reaching out to women with my writing and just some speaking, as well as now on the more recent level of coaching. And I have to find or just say that I really do love it, and I do believe that even though it is hard, it's hard work. It's difficult work, but I feel alive in my purpose. I feel alive with God again, and I think it's because again I'm just more honed into the aspects of who I really am, the person that God's created me to be. And this has been really cool because it flows into all parts, even into my marriage and my kids. And I'm not worried about being this type of mom. It's I'm just being the mom that God's created me to be. I'm being the wife that God's created me to be, and I'm just content in that and confident in that. And that is just a true gift,
Oh,
to have. And that's what I'm hoping to help and bring to other women as well.
I love that. And I love, that I hear you saying, now that I'm doing my purpose and fulfilling my destiny, I have so much joy, and
Yes,
everything is in
that
alignment.
is it.
And I love
Yeah.
that because it does
Mhm.
truly go across the board. So I'm glad
Mhm.
you shared
Yeah.
that with the ladies. So when you're working with ladies and you're doing your coaching with them or you're public speaking and you're encountering them, are you hearing from them, the immense stress they're under or the root of that stress that they may be experiencing?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely seems like there's a lot of women that are overwhelmed and stressed out. And gosh, I mean, I too was that woman. And not to say that I still don't have my moments. I do. I definitely am not 100% like I never stress about anything. But it was actually through just researching and learning more about, well, what is the underlying mechanism of stress like? Because that is just a common theme that I hear with women and um, just especially moms in general of just the amount of stress and overwhelm that's in their life. And so as I personally, I mean, I was like the epitome of stressed out. Like a few years back, if I was going to be teaching you, or if you had told me that I'm going to be teaching and training other women about understanding how to do stress management as well, I would have laughed. I would have laughed in your face, because I was not that woman. I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm the one that's like needs this the most. And so, but that's how God kind of brought it to me, was that he helped me realize that, yes, I personally need to understand this, but it's also because once I understand this, I'm meant to help other women understand this as well. And so, and I think that's what God does a lot, is through our struggles, through our pain, through the things and challenges that we face, God will take those and then in turn help you encounter and interact with other women that have those same struggles, and then give them that hope and that encouragement and that training or teaching that they need to help them move forward, to overcome those areas of their life. So yeah, with the stress thing, that's just something that I see, quite frankly, very often, and it's definitely why one of my emphases as a coach was in stress management. So, and I've thoroughly enjoyed understanding that, and then teaching women on a little bit more on a biblical basis of how to overcome some of their stress and anxiety levels. So
yeah, we all need that.
yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it?
So it's
Yeah,
definitely a great area to be helping women in.
I
In
agree.
what ways do you help them, through overcoming that? Or
Right. So, the first step is just to understand what stress and anxiety, what the root of stress and anxiety really is. And the root of it, I mean, I'll just share it with you bluntly right now. And if some people might be like, no, that's not me. But, the root of stress and anxiety is actually a fear.
Mhm.
And some of you are thinking, no, I'm not afraid. I'm just stressed out. And it's like, no. There's a deeper fear mechanism that's going on in your body. And without having to go into the deeper aspects of that and all the psychology and all the, chemical reactions, but there are certain reactions going on in your body that's creating what's called like a fight or flight response.
Mhm.
And so with this fight or flight response, in some situations, it can be a good thing. If somebody's coming out from behind an alley and is trying to attack you, you better, hope that your body's going to react, and either you're going to fight and, kick them or whatever you got to do to make them go away, or fly or run away, right? Flight is running away. And so you want those things to activate, but it's when we do the everyday things, it's the everyday life things, and we start feeling this increasing levels of this anxiety and stress and this fear in us, and we don't know how to shut it off. And that's the thing I want to talk about, is that most of us, it's kind of like, well, these days this doesn't really happen, but like, say you have like an old school coffee pot, right? And they don't have the automatic off switches, right? So you had to physically manually turn it off when it was done. Otherwise it would burn up the coffee and it would just ruin everything, or burn up your unit. And so there are times when there are times to move and push, and we need to react to some of the deadlines and things going on in our life, but then we need to know how to stop that and pull back and then rest. Because just like any other machine, I mean, even our computers, they have screensavers, and like, they need to rest. They can't be on all the time. Otherwise it burns them out. And I think we can get really burnt out when we are going, and just all the stress and the levels of stress like just start to eat at us, to where we just start to shut down, or just get so overwhelmed we just can't even cope with the life functions. And so granted, so there's a deeper fear. And with this fight or flight, like I said, it can be a good thing, but when it goes haywire is when it's turned on all the time in your body. And that is what happens with a lot of us women, is we're just constantly on the go, and we're constantly doing things, and we're constantly putting out fires with kids and refereeing and moving around and doing all this stuff. But then we don't know how to mentally almost turn off our minds, or mentally make ourselves relax from the stressful situation. Or it's even like there are certain situations where we're stressed out and it's really nothing to, like, we should not be worrying about it. And actually I have this thing here. I actually wrote this down really quick, if you don't mind me sharing, but the things that we worry about, it was a really cool statistic, and I want to share this with you. So 40% of the things that we worry about never happens. Okay. 30% is unchangeable deeds from the past. You can't change them. Okay.
wow.
12% focuses on the opinions of others, which they cannot be changed or controlled. You just can't change the opinions of others sometimes, so we're stressing about these opinions of other people and what they think about us, and it's like, don't stress about it, because sometimes you just can't control it. And 10% is on personal health, with actually, when you start stressing about your own state of health, it makes you worse, because you're just stressing yourself out about it, and it makes it worse. So really, they say statistically only 8% are real problems that we can influence. So of all the things that we stress and worry about, only 8% are things that we can really influence, that we can really change. And so I think this is eye-opening to when you sit back and you think, okay, well, what are the things that I'm really stressed out about, And like I said, it goes back to the root of fear. And if you don't mind, Jamie, I'll just keep going with the 4 fears and that sort of thing, okay? So, and I believe there are 4 fears that we all have, and that is where the root of our stress and anxiety and our worry comes from. So I'll just share them really briefly, and then we'll go into it. But the 4 fears is there's the fear of rejection, the fear of loss, the fear of failure, and the fear of the unknown. And when you sit and you sit back and you think, why am I stressed out now? I want you to start thinking, is it one of these fears? And I want to go into it a little bit more. So the fear of rejection. Now, of course, we're all going to experience rejection in life. Like that's just normal human nature. We've all experienced it. And it's hard and it's painful and it gets stressful. And so a lot of times we won't even go into a situation because we're scared of the possible rejection. I'm an author. I have an agent who pitches my work and pitches it to publishers, and I'm constantly getting rejection letters, ladies. So this is not something that's new for me. It's not something that never is not going away, but it's how the perception that I see this has changed for me, and that's truly changed the way I interpret and hone in on overcoming this anxiety struggle. And so when it comes to rejection, now, again, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not here to say that you can't seek other ways to help overcome stress and anxiety, but I'm just here to share there are some biblical ways that I've seen through God's word and how I changed my mindset that really has helped me overcome some of these stress battles and this anxiety struggle. And so just even one verse, which is so, so good, is it's 1 Peter 2:4. And it says, you come to him, a living stone, rejected by others, but in the sight of God, you are chosen and precious. And I love that, because although we may fear rejection from men or women or others, God will never reject us. And if we truly believe that God is all we need, then we can overcome these battles. We can become confident in knowing that God does not reject us. He has never rejected us. He's always going to love us and always chooses us first. And although, again, we may experience the rejection and darts and things that comments that people say, again, we can't always control the things, but guess what? We can control the way that we believe and think of ourselves. And if we believe and think that, remember that our identity comes from God and God alone, and not from what other people think of us or how they interpret us, then we are going to be okay. We can overcome this issue. And most of the time, ladies, even when we experience that rejection, guess what? It's typically because of their own insecurities. It has a lot less to do with you than you probably think. Yes, there are situations where you're going to experience that, but I challenge you to not let that become your identity, and let God become your identity of what he believes and says who you are. So that's rejection. If you're feeling that right now, I want you to just take yourself to prayer and pray through that, and go to the word and listen or read through and then recite what God actually believes and says who you really are. So then there's the fear of loss. Oh man. Now this is a tough one. It really is. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, there is a definite real fear of just, it's inevitable. It's life, right? Like, there's the fear of we could lose our child. There's the fear of we could lose our jobs. There's the fear of a lot of things that we can lose. There's this loss, and that's a scary thing. And yet, even though that's inevitable, at some point we have to believe that regardless of what may happen, like a but if not story. I want to tell you this story really quick. So my daughter, about a year ago, let's see, I'll even move back. I was downstairs. I have a 2-story house. I was downstairs and I was in my kitchen getting things ready for dinner. My husband just had gotten home, and we were talking a little bit and all that. And my kids were upstairs and they were playing, and it'd been about 10 minutes, and I was thinking, okay, I should probably go check on them because, my daughter's 3 and you never know what she's going to get up to. And my kids, and my boys were 4. And then all of a sudden I hear the sound of my daughter's cry. And the different sounds of your kids' cries. Like there's the cry of like, I didn't get my way. And then there's the cry of like, my feelings were hurt. And then there's the cry that you don't want to hear. Like that blood curl. Yeah. Like that's the cry. You're like, something's wrong. Like she got hurt. And so, but the weird thing was it was muffled, like it was far away. And I thought, where is this coming from? Because I knew she was upstairs. And I thought, okay, maybe my twin boys, they locked her in a closet somewhere and smashed her finger in the door. I don't know. So I'm running upstairs. I race upstairs and I open the door to my boys' bedroom, and the window of our 2-story, the window of our 2-story house was open. And I looked down and my daughter's on a pavement with blood coming all out of her mouth, face, everything. I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, my daughter just fell out of a 2-story window and fell on the concrete. So we ran downstairs, and obviously like we grab her, we're looking at her, we're checking her and we're assessing her. And I'm just like, we're going to have to take her in, especially because once I saw that she had this giant knot in the back of her head, I was like, oh my gosh, she hit her head. This is horrible. And she had just road rash, like bumps and bruises everywhere. So we grab her and we take her, and I'm driving. My husband had to stay back with the boys, and I'm driving, and I drove to the hospital. And as I was driving in the halfway there, I was starting to lose it. And I just felt like God's like, you need to pray this. And I sat back, and it was a test of my faith where I had to pray, Lord, I do pray that you heal my daughter. But if not, God, help me to see the good that you're going to bring through this pain. Help me to see the good that you will bring through this tragic accident. Help me see the good that I know ultimately you can create through this. And that is a hard prayer, ladies. It is not going to be easy, but I felt convicted in that moment that I had to pray that. I had to pray that. Otherwise, I knew that God's word says that he will be with us and that he wants what's best for us. And even though there are tragedies that happen, and I do believe that he doesn't love death. Like he never meant for us to die. There is an enemy out there, and we got to realize that there is an enemy out there, and he created a different kind of world than even what God ultimately wanted for us. And yet this happens. So, we have to accept the fact that now, because of that, though, God is going to help us create the good out of bad situations. So all that to say, we got to the hospital, and you know what? It was a miracle. She was fine. Absolutely 100% fine. And it was insane. It was like a total miracle. And I know not all situations work out that way. I know it. And maybe you're sitting there as well, and you're thinking like, that was not my story, and I wish it was. And I am so sorry for you, and I feel for you. And I know there's probably that real fear of loss now in your life, but we got to look to God's word, and we got to look and say, okay, at some point this could happen, but if not, I know God heals the brokenhearted, and he binds up their wounds. I know God won't leave me, and that he has a purpose that he can bring through the pain of my tragedies. And I know that there's a greater hope in Christ. And when I believe that, that changes me. That changes me from a place of constant fear of things that we really ultimately can't control to a place of deeper hope in what God has called us to do, or what God has even designed to have happen in our life, to bring beauty from pain and tragedy. Yes. So we have to believe that. The next one is fear of failure. Now, I've failed a lot, guys. I don't know about you, but I've experienced a lot of failure in my life, and it is not fun to deal with, let me tell you. So it is hard because you put yourself out there and you fail, or I'm going up to speak and I blow it on something, and it's like, oh, you're just like, I totally failed that one. And but we got to believe that, again, his word says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. And I do believe that. That's Proverbs 3:5-6. And I do believe that God does want what's best for us. He does want us to overcome these situations. And I actually believe, because of being a life coach and the things that I've learned, that really failures are just another way to, get to the next success.
Yeah.
If you don't step out and start doing some of these things, you're never going to reach the ultimate destination of success that God ultimately wants you to have. And so sometimes you're going to fail at what maybe looks like a failure is just a little detour, or sometimes maybe God is even protecting you from something that was ultimately going to happen over there. And you don't know it until sometimes you look back and you're seeing, I see you, God. I see where you were helping me to fail in that moment. So it was preventing me from something else that was going to be way more detrimental than what I even saw myself. And so look for those things where you're thinking when you experience a failure, when you experience something, you're like, that did not go the way I had planned or anticipated. Know that God still has a plan and a purpose in mind, and he will make your path straight. He will help you get through it. Okay. Last one, fear of unknown. Oh yeah. Okay. So fear of unknown. So this is also kind of like this lack of control thing. So ladies, we love control. I mean, it even goes back to Genesis that we have this desire to control. And as much as it can be very much a good thing, it can also be to our detriment. It really can. And the way that we need to start to understand, number one, is that as much as we are trying to be in control of things, ultimately God is in control. Do you remember what I said? That 8% of real problems are things that we can influence? Yeah, majority of it are things that we can't control, that we can't influence. And yet I think we start to try to grasp and grab for the control reins, especially in motherhood, right? Like we're trying to control our kids and do all these things. And yet sometimes we just got to step back and let God take the reins, because there are certain things that they may just have to experience for themselves. But then we got to trust and know that God is in control of their hearts, that he loves them beyond what we can even express ourselves. And I want to share that because I think I'm talking to a bunch of women that have kids, and you understand what I'm talking about with just the kids and the pain that can cause of like, I just want to make sure they're going to be okay. Well, if we believe that God loves us and he loves our kids even more than us, then we got to trust that, yeah, he's going to help make this okay for them. Like he's going to figure out a way for them. And there's another, I love this verse too. So it says, the heart of, well, I'm changing it, but to be woman instead of man. Okay. The heart of a woman plans her ways, but the Lord establishes her steps. That's Proverbs 16:9. And so, yes, it's okay to plan and make some kind of actions to help right the situation or steward our kids to in the right ways that they should go. But ultimately, it is up to God to establish the steps. It's ultimately up to God, and we got to trust that he knows the plans that he has for each of us, and he wants to give us a beautiful hope in a future. He does that. He wants that. And those are the 4 things that I think we all can come back to and we struggle with when it comes to stress and anxiety. And it's really one of those 4 fears. And so hopefully that gives you some context, and hopefully that gives you just some hope of I can go back to these verses and start to say them until I actually start to believe them. And then let that kind of calm your heart and mind down to really trusting the fact that God is in control of everything. So
yes, and acknowledging that stress and working our way through it. And even with the fears, acknowledging and saying, okay, I'm feeling rejection right now, and being present with that is so powerful.
Exactly.
And if we can identify it and sit in it for a minute, I'm not saying for months.
Yeah.
Then that can really help us shift our mindset. And I love that you brought forth the truth with it, and just intertwine that all together. And I mean, I'm just thinking I should just give the floor to you, because you are powerful.
Well, thank you. That's so kind of you. No, thanks. No, I just, these are just things I firmly believe in. And it has completely transformed my own life and my own thinking when it comes to understanding my anxiety and stress levels. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that, let me be honest, even a week ago, last week, me and my husband had to sit me down and be like, what is eating at you? And I'm like, oh yeah, like I was even just, I was feeling the stress in the moment. I'm like thinking back, I'm like, okay, what is it that I actually teach people again? Like, okay, that's right. Like this actually does work. And so, I had to sit there and think through, okay, what is eating at me right now? And again, it's just that acknowledgement of, okay, yeah, you're right. Like I'm afraid of fear right now, or I'm afraid of the rejection that I'm going to maybe experience, or I'm afraid that I don't know what's going to happen to the next, 6 months of our life or whatever.
Yeah.
And just going back to what God's word says and making that just calm us in a way that, because the truth is, ladies, sometimes you can't change certain circumstances. And what are you going to do then? Well, that is why God came, so that he can help us overcome the struggles in our heart and soul when there are certain circumstances that are just beyond our control. Yeah. And because if we don't start doing that, we are not going to make it very far. We're going to be so overwhelmed and so stuck and so depressed, I think, to where we just dwell in its bad hole. It's a bad little cycle hole that we keep going down and going down until you have to start changing your mindset to believe and actually look at the word and say, am I actually going to believe that this stuff is true? Right. And if I'm actually going to believe in this stuff is true, then how can I make sure that this changes the way I live my life? Because, for me, it is way easier to just sit and dwell on my negative thoughts and all the negative emotions and all that. But is that healthy? Does that help anything? Is that going to help me move forward in life? No. And so God's word helps me move forward with this stuff. God's word helps me to right my head again and put myself in the right direction so that I can overcome. I can have joy despite my circumstances. I can have peace because he says he is the ultimate giver of peace. And that is where our true peace is, God. I mean, there are going to be certain situations, like I said, that we experience in life and we won't be able to change. And yet, so we got to figure out, where is our ultimate fulfillment of peace? Is it in money? Is it even in our kids that we might idolize? I'm sorry to say. Is it in our job? Is it in our titles? All those things can be stripped away from us. They can. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to think that. But what is the one thing that can't be stripped away? Our faith in Jesus. Our identity as a daughter of the King. And we firmly believe that when we hold on to that, that is what can help you overcome any situation. That is what helps you and helps me overcome my stress and anxiety levels. And yeah, coming full-fledged, oftentimes I got to come back down and be like, okay, what's going on right now? Like, what is going on in my head? Because there's never going to be that place where you're like up on this mountaintop. And I mean, you're going to maybe get to certain crests and points where like, I feel pretty strong, and I definitely am stronger than I ever was before, but it doesn't mean I don't still struggle with this stuff. I have to keep coming back to this stuff over and over and over again for me to continue to refine those things that the enemy is continuing to try to deceive me of, or put lies of, or break me down with, and remember again the truth, and let that be the strength that I need in every situation. So there you go.
Yes.
That's my heart. That's what I believe in.
And I like, I like that you were honest and open about the fact that, we don't have to have it all together. We're all going to experience stress, everybody, big names that we see, they still experience stress,
it's true.
It's part of a human nature. And
it really is.
Yeah.
It so is. I mean, it's just normal. I mean, at the same time, we need to combat it with non-normal stuff, like, like believing that God's truth can actually set us free with this stuff, So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that was actually what I was going to ask you next. Like, what are some of the ways, because you focus and you do so much work with stress, eliminating that stress, what are some ways that you help your clients or the women you work with to eliminate that stress?
We, like, on a practical level, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Like on a practical level, I would say there are certain areas that you got to look at. So there are, I mean, I have a list, but I don't have it right in front of me, but let's see. So first of all, you got to look at finances. That is actually the number one thing that most people stress about. And most of the time it's because people just don't want to face it, and also, or just don't know how to manage it well. And I want to just share with you that I used to be that person who didn't understand how to manage my finances. And I realized I had to learn quick because otherwise my marriage was going to fall apart. So, um, on that note, I, sat down and we really had to work through, okay, like we need to set a budget. And so just budgeting has been a huge thing that helps me to overcome the stress areas in my life, because once I know that, we have enough money for this and this and this in the account, and we're saving and we're doing those things, it doesn't become that stressful burden anymore. Another one is just the amount of clutter in our home. I've had to really kind of go through, and we're continuing to simplify our house and simplify the toys and simplify our life so that we can feel less stressed when it comes to all those sorts of things. Because I think a calm and a decluttered home is a peaceful home in a lot of senses. And so it's true. You walk in, if you see like it's in chaos, it just, automatically I just feel like, oh. So I'm trying to figure out how to keep that to a minimum is really, really important. And then, I mean, there's other practical things such as just exercise. I know that's like, it's just true though. There's a lot of studies that say that exercise is really healthy to help overcome stress. It doesn't have to be anything crazy too. It can be just like walking for 30 minutes a couple times a week. And that is huge. That goes a long way towards just reducing and relaxing your stress levels. I love worship music too. I put that on a lot. Obviously sitting down and just praying every time that I feel stressed out. I sit and I pray with God, or I pray in the moment, or if I'm out and about, I keep my eyes open. I'm just talking to God as I'm like, God help me, but it's amazing how much it really does work,
Yeah.
So, those are just a few things.
And we know too, I know we didn't go into the science behind it, and we don't need to because that's so deep, but we know
right.
that, when we're acknowledging those positive things, those are going to be the parts of the brain that multiply, without going scientific in there. When we're focusing only on the negative and being so hard on ourselves, those are the things that are going to multiply. And so I think it's important that we speak, everybody says, be positive, but it truly is important, because that's who we become, because our brain just soaks that up and multiplies those specific things. So I think it's important to really, eliminate that stress, and also to really work through the things that we're experiencing and feeling, because we're women, we're hard on ourselves.
We really are.
We expect ourselves to do a lot, we expect ourselves
it's so hard.
Calm, and perfect.
It's true.
And
it's true.
And I don't think there is a perfect mom or a perfect
no
partner,
there's not. And I think that's the false what is it called, like the false kind of reality of what they think is and I talk about that sometimes in some at some events and stuff. It's like that Pinterest perfect mom, if there's no such thing. But it's this false reality that like everybody's doing it better than I, or that everyone's perfect at this and they're not struggling and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I'm like, man, we just need to get more real, I think. And actually just recently, even on my social media pages, I was talking about that, of just like, I just want to get real, like with just more real intention, real connection, genuine connection with people online, because I feel like sometimes that's even lost its ability. Like social media is supposed to be a place where you get social and you enjoy it and connect. And now I feel like it's just not like that as much anymore, it feels like. Or and so just getting back to like the heart of, well, if you want more of what, really it's about putting out what you want. Like if you want if you would expect and want somebody to treat you kindly, then you better treat others kindly, and it kind of goes both ways. If you want to be a more joyful person, start exuding that joy and you're going to be amazed at what happens. So that's kind of how it goes.
Yes. So true. So do you have anything that comes to your heart or your mind that you want to share with the ladies before we start to close everything up?
Just to keep believing that, you do have a purpose. God is your purpose. Like the more that you see God out of love for him, the more that you will understand who you are and what your ultimate purpose is in life. And so you'll have beautiful, creative, unique gifts. And I think the more that you start to understand yourself in that way, the more you start to come alive in ways that you never would expect or see before. And that's really kind of my story, like the more that I started seeking God out of true love for him and started to unravel and dissect some of the aspects of my character that I maybe turned a blind eye to, or I didn't even really understand before, the more he started to bring my heart alive in ways that at first it was a little nerve-wracking and scary. I was like, I can't do this, like being a writer. I can't do this. I don't know. I wasn't a journalism major. I don't know how to do this. And yet God just birthed some beautiful things through that and has continued to birth beautiful things through that has now inspired and equipped other women. And so I'm just truly passionate about that kind of stuff. And I just really hope and want other women to believe in that. So.
Love it. I love it. And definitely, you're just powerful. You have so much passion. You that it's like I was thinking about it earlier. I'm like, she's like a magnet, so.
Oh, thanks. I you're so kind. Gosh. I feel the same thing about you.
You have big waiting for you, definitely.
Oh,
so share with
you.
the ladies where they can find you if they want to catch up with you or read,
about
you.
Great. Yeah. So just RachelCSwanson.com. Unfortunately, RachelSwanson.com was not available. So there is a C. And so don't forget the C, RachelCSwanson.com. And yeah, and that's where you can find me online. I'm also on Instagram or Facebook under just Rachel Swanson Official. So you can, yeah. So you can find me there as well. And yeah, I love to connect. I love to always encourage and connect with other women. Especially come and join my email list, and because I have lots of encouraging insights like this that I share with especially with my people that are on my email list. And although right now I think you'll probably get a lot of the same information that I just shared, except obviously I shared in more detail, but it's always good to have a refresher. So yeah, I think it's a really good way to connect, and yes. I'd love to see you.
Yes. Soak it up with your wise words. And
thank you.
I know you have a free gift that you're giving everybody that's participating. So can you share with them more about that?
Oh, yes. Is that something, will you have a link available for them in the email? Okay, great. Because otherwise I'm like, it's so wordy. But yeah, so it is just 10 practical. It's actually, so the 10 practical ways to distress. So we've kind of touched on that, but it's even more. I want to give you more detail and more encouragement and more insights of how literally today that you can go through these and be like taking action right now to overcome that stress and anxiety that you're feeling in your life. And so those are just the 10 of the biggest things that I've seen and even me experience personally, and how I've been able to change and implement that to become just a more peaceful person, to just live my life and not have all this like worry and stress and anxiety just hovering over my shoulders all the time. And so in combat with that, with obviously the spiritual aspects that I shared about, but again, I think there's a lot of practical things that go along with it too. So that is my gift to you, and I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, it'll be available in the link, so I think that'll be easiest to find it.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, you ladies have to go take advantage of that so we can all start dressing our worlds. Definitely.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
Pouring out your heart into this, into the ladies. It's been
of course.
Cool.
My pleasure.
They're going to gain so much wisdom. So much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, we will see you on the next side. Have a great day. Bye.